no, you're fine. Is there a full? I don't know if there is a maximum amount.
No, I said, is this room full?
4, yeah, room 4, yeah, exactly.
Oh, I see. Okay, because I thought I had on the schedule, it says 2:30 p.m. GMT. The talk. Am I reading the schedule wrong?
I think GMT, it's 1:30 GMT at the moment.
Ah, see. Okay, sorry, buddy.
No, you're right. I'll look forward to your presentation in an hour then.
No, I completely got that wrong. Yeah, but yeah, I'm looking forward to yours now.
Great, thank you. Cool. Okay, great. So before we start, yeah, thank you all for tuning in. You're about to discover a whole new world. Before we get started, so a little bit about me. I was born in England and raised in Switzerland with an Indian, Pakistani, and Kenyan ancestry. So quite quite a mix. Originally, my passion for business took me a little bit all over the world. To the UK, Spain, and many other places where I actually got familiar with a lot of different aspects, different innovation, and that brought me to the cryptocurrency and blockchain industry because I really thought that it was a sector that was growing and bringing new light to this world, right? So I started off doing research and different investing. And then I really took a leap into this world when it came to digital assets. So one use case for this technology that we'll get involved in a little bit longer is the digitalization of assets. So taking an asset and fractionalizing it into percentages so that you can purchase a percentage of an asset. Let's say with $1, you can buy into a solar panel farm or into a startup or whatever might come across your mind. So I'm currently heavily involved within this industry. I'm an advisor to a legal tech startup that are pursuing a vision of creating a decentralized legal ecosystem. I'm also the vice president of the Crypto Valley Association, whereby we really bring together the ecosystem here in Switzerland of all these startups and really give them a place where they can grow. So let's get straight into it. Just a little disclaimer: nothing of what I'm about to say is investment advice. I have to say it out of precaution. Great. So these are some of the things we're going to go into. I don't know about the level of knowledge of some people here on blockchain and crypto, so I'll go quickly over blockchain cryptocurrency 101 so that we all have a baseline understanding, and then get into a little bit more of the core of this webinar, which is financial freedom and finding the silver lining amongst the crisis. So cryptocurrency, the future of money is digital currency, as Bill Gates rightfully said. So a cryptocurrency, what is a cryptocurrency? So it's essentially a digital currency which has encryption techniques which are used to regulate generation of units of currency and verify the transfer of funds. Well, it sounds pretty complicated. It's not. And today these current cryptocurrencies have become a global phenomenon known to most people. And it's really hard, I would say nowadays, to find a major bank, a big accounting firm, and anyone around the world that has not done research or started a project with blockchain technology. I mean, here you can see all of the different companies and some of the largest companies in the world that are currently involved in blockchain technology. I'm sure you know most of the ones that are here, right? From Google to Siemens to Apple, Facebook with their Libra project, etc. And they're really involved within not cryptocurrency, but in the underlying technology of these currencies, which is blockchain. So blockchain is a timestamp series of immutable records of data that are managed by a cluster of computers. So in very simple terms, it's just an accountancy system whereby if you have each block of data that is secured using cryptographic principles. So like Lego, you have one block of data on top of another, on top of another, and it just creates blockchain, a chain of blocks with different data in it. So here you can see this is what the blocks look like, one after the other. So what makes this technology so special, right? Because if it's just digital Lego, it's why would all these companies and all the media be so braved up upon it? So there are three things that make the technology so interesting: is that nobody controls the ledger, nobody can change it, and everybody can see it. So here we can see these three principles are decentralization, transparency, and immutability. So decentralization enables a network to be theoretically immune to government control, as there is no one that is controlling it specifically, right? So there are people here in Switzerland, in the US, in China. Everybody can run the network, and a government cannot come around knocking on your door, hey, shut this down, because if they shut down yours, they can't necessarily shut down the ones all over the world. The second principle of blockchain technology is transparency. Everything that you see within these little blocks of data, everybody around the world can see. Okay, there's cryptographic principles whereby you cannot see who's who. So you're not going to be able to see, this is Shiraz's transaction here, but you will just see a long code of data. However, this enables you to see, okay, this transaction was made at this point, the next minute there might be another one that's made, and you can really track each transaction made since the first one ever. And I would say the third principle here is immutability. So in the context of blockchain, it means that once something has been entered into the blockchain, it cannot be tampered with. Like as if you had Lego, for example, you wouldn't be able to, once you had your Lego blocks, to try and pull one out. It's rather impossible. So here you can see it a little bit more, right? So every block has a value for itself, but also for the previous one. So this ensures that blocks are retroactively coupled together, and as we said before, this functionality really ensures that nobody can intrude on the system. So all in all, as we can see here from this example of what decentralized immutable blockchain looks like. So you see Alice might want to pay Bob. The transaction goes through this interconnected network. Multiple people here will verify it, and then Bob will receive it, and the transaction is complete. Voila. So those are the core principles, and here are some fun facts for you. Based on blockchain, so around 0.5% of the world population are currently using blockchain technology, according to the World Economic Forum, and the number of blockchain wallets steadily been increasing more and more, and around 42 million people are estimated to have a wallet based on blockchain technology. And analysts have predicted that these numbers will rise, and with increased popularity of this technology, that the World Economic projects that 10% of global GDP will be on blockchain by 2025. So from 5 years from now, 10% of world GDP is a lot. Well, the future is undecided. However, in 2008, the beginning of cryptocurrencies was born. Does anyone know what happened in 2008, the first application on blockchain? I don't know if you can activate your microphones either, or if there's
MakerDAO.
MakerDAO. In 2008? No.
I said no, sorry.
Yeah, so in 2008 it was Bitcoin. I know you know that one, sirs. Great. So Bitcoin is known as gold for nerds here, as Stephen Colbert says. So cryptocurrencies emerged as a side product, actually, of Satoshi Nakamoto's invention. So the unknown inventor of Bitcoin never really intended to invent a currency, right? His announcement of Bitcoin in late 2008, Satoshi said he developed a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. So his goal was to invent something that many people failed to create before, digital cash. So Bitcoin gives us for the first time a way for one internet user to transfer a unique piece of digital property to another internet user, such that the transfer is guaranteed to be safe and secure, and nobody can challenge the legitimacy of the transfer. All these are exchanged through a distributed network of trust that does not require or rely upon one central intermediary, as we saw before, like a bank or a broker, all in a way where only the owner of an asset can send it, only the intended recipient can receive it, the asset can only exist in one piece at a time, and everyone can validate transactions and ownership of all assets anytime they want. Well, that sounds pretty great, right? So why don't governments like Bitcoin? Well, as you can see from this quite interesting image that I found here, is that, well, if they can't control the money, neither can they control you, right? And then they might end up losing their power, and I doubt, well, any of the leaders above here would like that. So this is really where the revolution began. And I would like to focus on this quote by Chris Dixon here, where he states that there are three eras of currency. First being commodity-based, where we bartered maybe apples for tea. Politically based, so where there were political systems like the American dollar and the Chinese yuan, where you could trade these two currencies, and now math-based, so free from intermediaries, directly from me to you. And so the rise of this revolution, in my opinion, really came in early 2015 with the launch of Ethereum. So Ethereum makes it possible for developers to build decentralized applications, dApps, as well as issue their own cryptocurrency directly on the Ethereum blockchain. And this removed the need for people to create their own blockchain for their service, and the ability to really create a cryptocurrency quickly, easy, and cheaply as well, is really what made cryptocurrencies take off in 2017. So the cryptocurrency industry has really had its fair share of crisis from that point, and even earlier on, right? As you can see here, billions have been stolen through hacks and scams. In 2014, Mt. Gox, as you can see, there was a 460 million hack, right? And there's a common misconception that the blockchain has not been hacked, right? The place in which the cryptocurrency was stored has been hacked. And in most cases, like above, it was the exchange. So now you know the basics of cryptocurrencies. We can get really into the core of this webinar, right? Which is financial freedom. So we're currently in times of crisis. And here I'd like to put a few, that the Chinese character for crisis is composed of two characters, danger and opportunity. So now it's up to us to find that silver lining, right? So we'll dive straight in. So in times of crisis and radical uncertainty, the search for alternatives that can improve everyday life has intensified. The Bitcoin project, launched in October 2008, just 6 weeks after the Lehman Brothers actually filed for bankruptcy, and the financial crisis went from bad to dreadful. And since then, there are many private cryptocurrencies that have sprung up, and even central banks have begun to contemplate digital currencies of their own. And the coronavirus pandemic and its severe social, political, economical repercussions give digital currencies a chance to shine. And unlike cash, digital currencies cannot be a potential source of virus transmission or require persons to overlook social distancing when making payments. You wouldn't believe it, right? Here in Switzerland, like a few days ago, I was trying to pay for my parking in cash, but I was blocked by the meter that said only card payments were available. And this experience was really proof to me that we're not only being pushed financially towards digital means of payment, but also for our own health and safety. So it may sound odd to turn to crypto during financial turmoil, but the industry has evolved to a more sophisticated level than its more mature former versions. So as a whole, the crypto industry is remarkably different than when mainstream investors flocked to the scene, causing the mania of 2017, when you first probably heard about cryptocurrencies. So what is different, you may ask? Well, user interface and experience have dramatically improved. Liquidity is much better. Analytics has progressed substantially. Derivatives are booming and the mining sector is industrializing. So we have here an example of the type of innovation we're seeing from this pandemic, right? So an example of this and how blockchain is providing a tool of support in this crisis is through the COVID-19 Credentials Initiative, who are working on a digital certificate. So the certificate lets individuals prove and request proof from others they've recovered from the coronavirus, have tested positive for antibodies, or have received a vaccination. And once one is available, then it will just expand. So these digital certificates would be used by health institutions, but controlled by the user and shared in a peer-to-peer manner. So how has the crisis affected this growing industry? Well, leading blockchain intelligence firm Chainalysis has found that the COVID-19
that this is having money itself. So what we're seeing right
has actually enabled here to see a weakening correlation between Bitcoin and merchant services. And I will be very short on this one, essentially meaning that people are holding on to their cryptocurrencies, which means that even with the current sell-offs occurring in traditional markets, many investors still see a long-term value in the asset. And this may remind you of another safe haven asset that a lot of people are investing in during these times. And that is gold, right? So gold is a scarce resource, and this characteristic can be used to counter inflation. However, gold is not an easy means of conducting economic transactions in a globalized economy. Can you use gold to pay for goods from a producer or to a friend abroad? It would be a bit complicated, right? Sealing your gold in an envelope, sending it, waiting for it to arrive. So like gold, Bitcoin is scarce. So there are only 21 million that will be issued in total. And every 4 years or so, the number of Bitcoins produced is halved. So then there will be no more Bitcoin available after a certain amount of time. So thus Bitcoin is a deflationary asset. And like gold, as you can see on the price above, right? The price has been rising. The next halving, actually, this graph is a little bit outdated, but is approaching very, very soon, in a number of days. So similar to gold, Bitcoin cannot be forged. So the computing power required to forge Bitcoins cannot be reproduced. It's portable, so Bitcoin can be located on a blockchain, and all you need is really an internet connection to access it, and sometimes not even that. And it's divisible, so Bitcoin can be divided up to 8 decimals, if I'm not mistaken. So you can have a 0.001 Bitcoins, and it's fungible, so each Bitcoin is equal to the others. So where does cryptocurrency fit within the current financial market? Well, we may be witnessing a fundamental shift in market sentiment, specifically the cozy relationship between the government and corporations. The recent stimulus packages across the globe have revealed that corporations were woefully unprepared for any type of supply and demand shock and abuse low interest loan rates to buy back their own shares. Nonetheless, most corporations are being bailed out along with major fund managers in comparison to small businesses, which are currently being left fighting. So individuals worldwide are increasingly without jobs while their bills are piling up. Maybe the financial system that we're currently in just isn't as sustainable as some people might have thought. So is cryptocurrency and Bitcoin a safe haven from this pandemic economic crash? Well, Bitcoiners were largely caught up in a safe haven narrative while the S&P 500 tumbled and panic reigned over the credit markets. But, you know, Bitcoin fared just as poorly at that point in time, as the assets in virtually every market were sold off in unison, with the crypto market structure effectively crashing as well in March 12th and 13th. Despite this, Bitcoin has significantly climbed back without stimulus injections. If some of you are looking at the markets, there was a huge rise just a few days ago. We can't say the same about many other assets, nor markets. All in all, Bitcoin's safe haven narrative may have taken a hit during the last month, but this is precisely the moment it was created for. Add in the rising generation of millennial investors who have now watched the financial system fail spectacularly twice, and the picture of a shining opportunity for crypto to prevail among the public begins to crystallize, and there are already some very encouraging signs of this. So, although everyone is struggling amid an unprecedented global crisis, from a financial outlook, the situation is favorable for crypto. But first, projects and crypto assets need to weather the economic storm ahead. Then, maybe the infrastructure, progress, and early indications of blossoming adoption will follow. Crypto's foundation is built upon an ever-reducing trust in the financial system. The system has exposed its faults once again, and where there is still a way to go for the broader crypto industry to appeal to the mainstream masses, the current macro narrative has never been more conducive to the sector's eventual success. Now it's about seizing that opportunity. And well, you miss 100% of the chances you don't take. So what might they be? Well, the best way to predict the future is to create it. So what does the future hold for us? Well, for the banked, crypto will be extremely disruptive. In the past few years, the whole banking system has become ever more ridiculous, with banks that charge deposit and withdrawal fees, foreign transaction fees, service fees, even account closing fees. And additional to this, some Swiss bank accounts have even started to charge negative interest rates. So you're paying them to keep your money and spend it at their free will. I won't get into the ethics of what these banks have been known to do with your hard-earned money. But anyway, now there is an alternative to this monopoly. And for the unbanked around the world that live in developing nations where the capital is unprotected, it provides security. Sometimes these people also live in oppressive regimes that manipulate local currency through taxation and inflation. Crypto is free from one entity's influence. And think of workers in foreign countries that make money to send back to their families. Switching to Bitcoin with charges no or very low fees for these remittance payments will raise the quality of life for migrant workers and also their families significantly. So without the complex banking bureaucracies, cryptocurrencies give the unbanked a chance to securely save and transfer money to whoever, wherever they want. But before you go out, and spend all your life savings on cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, I have just one little story to share with you before we end this. So you all know probably JP Morgan. And on September the 12th, 2017, the CEO of JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, calls Bitcoin a fraud and threatens to fire any employee that buys or owns Bitcoin with immediate termination. So quite radical, right? For just owning a digital asset. If you own some, he will fire you. But if you want to keep your job, you do what your boss says, right? And you don't do any research and you stay calm. Well, 4 days later, the global banking giant bought 19,102 Bitcoin shares in the Swedish Nasdaq traded Bitcoin ETN, which translates to around 95 Bitcoin, but still worth some $500,000 at the time. So much for not buying Bitcoins, right? And well, I'll give you a spoiler. Jamie Dimon didn't fire himself after his own purchase of Bitcoins. And well, it doesn't stop there. Less than 2 years later, on February the 15th, JP Morgan decided to officially become the first US bank to launch its own digital token representing a fiat currency. So this currency is made to facilitate the transfer of payments between its institutional clients. Well, I can tell you, you can't even imagine Jamie Dimon's face when I went up to him earlier on the year at the World Economic Forum and asked him what he thought of Bitcoin. I mean, it's definitely not the same face he was pulling here. Well, I'll just leave you with this, a little bit more philosophical. Just never forget that first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, and well, then they'll fight you. But if you're persistent and you're still fighting for what you believe in, then you win. So the choice is yours. If you have what it takes to win, then find the silver lining. Perfect. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them on board. But yeah.
Shiraz, my man. So how do we get to mass adoption?
How do we get to mass adoption? It's a good question. We all download the Swissborg app, and I think it comes with a lot of education, webinars like this, connecting with people that aren't in the industry, that might not be involved in any or in the financial industry, that only see money as okay, going to their bank, and that are very worked up in their day-to-day lives, and showing them that there is an alternative to their everyday bank accounts, that they can look for something that is different, and show people that there is something else out there. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely education is a big play. I think so. Digital ID, I'm going to talk about that a bit later. So that's going to be a big one. I think so. And I think so. The trust level, which comes with real use cases. I think so. There's a lot of, as you know, in crypto, that there's a lot of things that are good for speculation. There's a lot of cases that are good for actually using it. But I think so. For payment purposes, for example, it's still weird that we haven't seen like a bigger adoption in third party in third world countries, like in Africa or in some places. And I think so that's where it should be really being, or like in Pakistan or in Iran, like when we talked about it, those are countries where you probably should have stable coins, making sure that everyone could be banked in.
Yeah, creating some stability. Yeah, I definitely agree with you, and I do believe we're slowly working towards it. There is a lot of great innovation that is happening. I think, especially within Switzerland. I mean, we see the larger ecosystem. There are a lot of startups that are present within the Crypto Valley, right? In Zug and yourselves in Lausanne, that are really trying to bring this out to the world. And I always like to say that Rome wasn't built in a day. And
True.
if you're trying to build a whole new financial system, right, and actually take power and influence away for some people, it takes time, right? It's not going to happen in the click of fingers, but I think we're slowly working towards getting there, and hopefully we will get there soon. I think this crisis will really shift the minds of a lot of people, and it's not over. I think the repercussions are coming slowly, and people will start to wake up to the alternatives out there.
Most definitely.
Great. So does anyone else have any questions before I pass it on to Cyrus with his very interesting topic?